All right. Well, I'll turn it over to Nona Hill, our treasurer, to introduce our final presenter of the day, Frederick Simon, who's going to bring us full circle back to photography in the U.S. So Nona, go right ahead.
Frederick Simon is an image maker and raconteur, professional railroader, advisor, consultant, freelance photographer, videographer, and author who has lived and worked in the Great Plains and the inland Northwest. His background as a railroader and photographer gives him a perspective and ability to develop a unique style of emotive and provocative railroad imagery. He is the moderator and creator of the popular Facebook group Steel Wheels Photography and is currently working on his first book. His current railroad career is operations manager of the North Shore Scenic Railroad. The title of his presentation is Railway Photography as an Art Form, and he will share photographs and stories from his perspectives within the industry. Welcome, Frederick, and we look forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. It's a little bit of a high bar there to reach. I don't have everything scripted here, so we're just going to have to kind of go by ear. I hope that these images will come through and are able to be shared as I have them anticipated. So I have them kind of grouped up in little sections, and let's see if we can get one image up here first so we can get started on there. Here we go.
Yeah, okay, that should be coming through. Right. All right.
All right. So what folder did you open there? It's black and white. Okay. Well, right. That's fine. Let's just start with this. So a little bit of history about myself. Obviously, that was already done, and I've been a photographer for all my life. When my dad put the camera in my hand when I was 13, starting out with a Zeiss Icon, and through the years, Leicas, Nikons, and things like that. So for a while there, I was involved professionally in the railroad business, but on a different scale. And then all of a sudden, through a large chain of events, I ended up getting involved in the operations part of the railroading, and that kind of led me back to taking up the craft of photography. And no thanks also to my dad for that. So just a brief background on, I've worked at the Washington Eastern Railroad and the Eastern Washington Gateway Railway, where I've had privilege of access of being pretty intimate with equipment, and had unprecedented access to take photography or make photography that is probably not easily copied or that you can't do on an everyday level. So here we're coming down a place called Rattlesnake Hill on the CW, looking out of the GP30. And if you want to go, can I go ahead and do this next? You go ahead and hit the next button.
I'll have to advance them on my end.
Okay, go ahead. All right, were you able to advance it?
Yeah, we're looking at a grain elevator with Locomotive 329 right now. Do you see that?
No, I don't. Doggone it. I still see the old image.
Oh, I guess it's not refreshing. This should be a night shot with the 24-22 coming through a cut.
All right, let me just go ahead and open this. That way you don't have to. Does everybody else see it, or can we find out if everybody's seeing what you're seeing?
I'm seeing what you're seeing, Scott.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let me get here. Let me open this up real quick. Oh, there it goes. Now it's going slow. Okay. All right, so yeah, so photography. I've tried to. My forte is I like to do a lot of photography at nighttime and stage a lot of images that would reflect the railroads actually operating during inclement weather, nighttime, any kind of weather. I'm out taking or making photography or taking images of trains in their normal habitat. So and just go ahead and just keep going through the images just on a little bit of a delay there, Scott, so that we can just kind of get through. Okay, 329 and the 328 here are at Elmira. They're a couple SD45s from the MRL that we had on property for a while. We enjoyed having them. They were really reliable locomotives. I don't do much black and white work. This was just a small snippet of some of the work that I've got done in black and white. This is looking back on the train on the 8702, one of our SD40 T-2s that we had up there. They're normally running about 60 cars of loaded grain coming from Midwest or the mid part of Washington State, and then unloading at the grain elevator, the main grain elevator in 4 Lakes. Next. Train here, the 8702, working pretty hard, going up grade. And we're back in on the CW here. This is some of the grain elevators that where we'd load out, and so this is some of the typical photography that I like to do. It's a little bit abstract, a lot of lines, a lot of different things going on that you know, give you an idea that there's something happening in the image. And the reason for the image, that the way it was shaped, is that I try to keep, after the image has been taken, there is a certain amount of distortion. So once I push it through Lightroom, it'll actually straighten the image out and make it so that it is actually the perspective of what the human eye would see. So therefore, I don't want to trim it down any. I just want to keep the entire canvas, and therefore it's this kind of shape. Go ahead, next.
Beautiful shapes and lines in that, just stunning.
All right, and so yeah, so again, the night photography is what I really like. And this situation here was we had to stop, tie down the train for a second, and as soon as I saw that, I saw the opportunity here to grab a nice night shot with the evening sky with all the stars, and just to kind of give the emotion of being in the middle of nowhere with you know, stars, and you're there out there by yourself, and it's just it's an incredible feeling. So I try to do my best to capture that feeling and to convey that through the photography. All right, next. And this is again back on the CW here. We're coming around the bend there at Rockland, and just you know, one of these views that is typically only seen by an engineer and rarely captured. So I try to do my best to convey, again, to let other people see, you know, see the ability to what others would like to be able to see. All right, next. And again, here this is, again, I'm not part of the crew. I'm just going along as a photographer. We're moving along the MU steps between the 2 locomotives. You know, the dramatic, the drama of the feeling of the train moving, and the noise and the cacophony is I try to bring that out in the image here. So you can just imagine, you know, moving at about 10 miles an hour, it still looks like you're moving quite fast, and but the detail and the workings of the railroad and those things, I'm trying to convey that so that people can kind of feel that and actually be there when I'm actually doing this. So this is a little bit of an interesting image here. This was done of the 4449, and I think I was in Klamath in Oregon there. Time exposure, a little bit of a the way that the shutter worked, it looks like the wheels are a little bit either flat on each side, and so again, it's just an experimentation. I like to try to experiment a little bit and try to open it up so that the eye looks at it and says, well, what's going on here? What's happening here? And so that's how we get this this unusual looking image here, is because of the, you know, the motion of the wheels just moving slowly, but the shutter is not able to keep up, and therefore you have this unusual composition. Next.
I've never seen a shot of the 4449 that looks quite like that. Superb.
Yeah, right. And yeah, and there she is. And that was again here. I'm not much of a black and white photographer, but again, this is just a very simple, clean image, shows the builder's plate. It's got the daylight. It's immediately recognizable. Very simple image. But all right, we can go next. I think that's it on that group, isn't it?
Yeah. Where should we
Okay.
go next?
Just go ahead and hit the next one there. I think we're
All right.
down to the CVR. All right, so about 2 months ago, I was asked to work down on the CVR, which is the Cimarron Valley Railroad, which is southwestern Kansas. The railroad runs into Oklahoma and Colorado. We operate with lots of GEs there. And so this plant in the background there, this carbon black plant, and it's kind of an unusual place where we actually came in and switched a lot. Somewhere through this slide or through the show here, you'll see one of my conductors that was actually working there. It's a terrible place. Everything turns black when you go in there. So, and this is with the train after we'd pulled back out of there and had to tie down for the day. So again, I'm trying to emote some of the what it's like in Kansas, how flat it is, and you know, the blue sky with some of the purples and the colors and accents in there. All right, Scott, next. So this is a place called Rias on the Cimarron Valley. Again, a little bit of play with the colors and to open up, again, to try to open it up so that you see something, you feel something in the image, the clouds and the sunset. You know, there were some fires there, and so of course that made the sky extremely orange. All right, next. And this was one of the days that we had we weren't able to come in and finish up our job, so we had to tie down. Again, another opportunity to you know, catch a nice sunset and to catch the locomotives and the train in a pretty good situation. Of course, create a little bit of depth of field with a pile of old ties sitting there. Next. All right, and so this was a day that we were heading back from out west and coming back east into Satana. And as I was pulling up to this feedlot, the feedlot is split by the railroad, and there's cows, tens of thousands of cows on one side and tens of thousands of cows on the other side. And I saw that there were a couple of what I would call ranch hands that kind of pulled up and started messing around by the railroad tracks. And I said, it looks to me like they're going to move some cows. So I told my conductor, let's stop here and let's tie down for a sec. And of course, that's exactly what happened. We tied down, and they started moving the cattle across. This one definitely didn't want to make it across. So again, it's an interesting. It's something that you don't normally see in railroad photography. That something like this, it just shows that we're still in the Midwest, and there's still, you know, it's kind of an all-American kind of image where old things still happen, and you know, you wouldn't see this on you would never see this on a mainline railroad. So it was an interesting capture. All right, let's head to the next.
Looks like that's details.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so again, here we get a little bit more into the depth of actual railroading and what it's like to be a railroader. So I've tried to do my best to try to capture some of the intricate workings of the railroader and what it is being a railroader. Here we have our work orders. We're getting ready to work. What we have to do. I'm there with Scott Rory. Go ahead, next one. And then we, you know, have to stop the train every once in a while. We have to grab fuel, and so the fuel truck is just waiting there to fuel up. And once we get fueled up, we're ready to go, and off we go down the line. Go ahead, next. And that's the inside of a -2 cabinet there of one of the -2 locomotives that we run there. Again, it's just as far as the photography is concerned, it is just a way to try to open up that secret world of inside railroading without, infringing upon rules and things like that. So these images that you see here, where the actual train is running or something like that, I'm actually not part of the operating crew, or we're actually at a service area where we're doing the service or the work and repairing the locomotive. But this gives the rail fan at least an eye into what it is like being a railroad, and hopefully that's what I've been able to do here. And that's the inside of the locomotive, the wiring. It's amazing, all the wiring, the maze of things that are involved in getting a locomotive to operate properly and to troubleshoot some of these things here, which I've done in the past, and we've worked hard on some of these locomotives, and they're very old, and they do need a lot of attention. Next. And that's the -2 car to Hopton, that there were times when we'd get hot engines. So again, something to record and document to show that there is always something going on the railroad. There's always Murphy's Law going on. Next. And that's the, just again, another view of actually the independent, and again, the photography of it is just to try to show, this is an artisan kind of a job, a craft, if you will. And go ahead and just keep going through the images there. We can. And as far as the details are concerned, this is the rear light of the GP30. It's again just to kind of show that the detail of the locomotives and what's involved, and keep, And there's a normal switch stand that we have to work the switch stand quite often, and these are the circumstances that we have to deal with: frozen locks, very cold, your hands get frozen, your feet are frozen as a conductor, and it's a tough job, And another step shot. You can go ahead and go through those pretty quick there, Scott. And again, inclement weather shots, just so we can see that, railroads are operating at any given time, any given day, through any kind of weather. A detail shot of the inside of the GP30 remanufactured at Claiborne. More frozen locomotives.
Got a really great eye for details in these.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's when you're sitting there and you're kind of tied down and things aren't going on, your mind starts thinking about what is it that people don't get to see much, and what is it that people would like to see if they were actually in the locomotive. Here we have some guru, they're called guru plugs, and of course they're made to pop out of the locomotive to let the water run out in case the temperature gets too low, and that's exactly what happened here. Is the temperature got too low, the gurus popped, and the water went out. So now we're holding them there so that we can warm them up, so we can put them back in and then put water back in the locomotive. And that's a remote shot. Of course, the train's moving at about 10 miles an hour, done with a GoPro remotely. But it gives the idea that the grime and the grunge of actually being in the railroad, and to give motion and to again convey the idea that the railroad is it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. Improvising.
Yeah, speaking of a dirty job.
Yeah, a lot of times at nighttime, the lights are on, and you're going at nighttime late, and all of a sudden you have to turn the cab light on so you can look at your work orders, and the light is way too bright. So we just have to improvise. Sometimes even the gauge lights don't work. Yeah, it's tough. So, and this is the office. This is the back of the office there. First thing that usually comes off is the safety vest. Is not required in the cab, but here we are. We're actually working on the locomotive. So again, it's just definitely a dirty environment. Our daily locomotive inspection report. I always usually get a shot of that so that I have a record of it. But every day in a 24-hour period, the locomotive has to be inspected and then signed off by the engineer. Now we're doing some work on top of the locomotive with this 5-chime horn here. It's on the 3910, but yeah, again, it's a perspective and trying to show that there is an art form in railroad photography. And I'm not saying that this is one of my better pictures, but again, it's just to try to use it as a form to show that there are different angles to photograph on a railroad, and detail shots are some of my ideas about how you can use lines, how you can use the circles and the round fans and things like that. But it's more just to convey, to say that there are different angles to engage in railroad photography. Again, it's a very, very cold day. Snow is drifting. We've stopped, and again, it's another way to convey the atmosphere that the railroads operate in inclement weather. We see so many sunny shots all the time and so many bright, beautiful days and wedgies and things like that. But to me, it's just as being a professional railroader, I'm there all the time, and it makes no difference when or what's going on. Here, the locomotive is just being started up. The turbocharger, of course, is activated, and a lot of exhaust and white smoke to clear out the throat of the SD40 there. This gives you a little bit of a feed about how dirty the cabs are sometimes, and how old the equipment is that you're actually working with. And that's a little bit of a detailed shot. This is here now at Duluth at the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, and we just pulled out the Sioux Line steam locomotive, and I just happened to be walking along the platform, and just as I think it was Roger had mentioned, and I'm not sure if Daryl did, but it's just camera phones on the or the phone cameras have advanced so much that if you don't have it with you, you're going to miss some shots. And I always keep mine with me when I'm not in service or not in active service. But here, this was done on my smartphone, and it conveys again the grunge and the atmosphere of old time railroading. And our view inside the cab. Back on the train. And looking out the cab, the conductor side of the locomotive. Here we are. We're working on the locomotive. Yeah, we just changed out a power assembly. Again, just a recording of an event like that. That very rarely do you see something like this. I mean, yeah, there's probably some people that do that, but just from a railroad photography standpoint of view, is to show the intricacy of the mechanics of the locomotive, how dirty it is, what's involved, and to bring the viewer into that world. Union Pacific GE locomotive that's seen a better day. Same machine again. again, this is, I like a lot of symmetry. I work on symmetry, symmetrical shots. So the contrast between the two locomotives, different owners, blue sky, something different. Again, it's to try to show a little bit of art form, different, eyes to see the different angles and views of things. So, that's what that is. Again, inside the cab with the Mary unit. Close-up shot of a UP unit there with the detail of the American flag, obviously. Traction motor. Scott, let's go ahead and drop out of this particular folder here, and let's get to a little bit more openness. I had thrown a few things together so that just to see how time was going.
Sure.
But let's go over here. Let's take a look at the night photography. I think this is where we really
sounds great.
Yeah, we need to hit that.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and go there. So again, I really love night photography, and working with my Sony camera, although this image is a little bit soft, I've been able to perfect a pretty good system working together with Lightroom and opening up the shadows and creating some pretty good compositions simply with ambient light. So this is one of my more recognizable shots. This was done after work. I think it was about 3:30 in the morning. I'm sure the guys up in the cab were wondering what I was doing. I had my tripod set up. Contrary to popular belief, that's not the northern lights. It's just the clouds moving through the sky and creating, this sugar coating in the sky. So, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love doing. This is Elmira 8702. Tied down here. And another crew change point. Again, recording the action here. There's the truck right in the bottom right-hand corner. We're just getting out and getting ready to change at Telford Road. And a Star Trails there at a place called Hanson. We're just spotting some cars. That's the Fred blinking there and reflecting off the steel round elevator. And that's one of our crew members getting up on the train, ready to go. Same image, just a little different. That's Bruce. He's been on the railroad. He's about 80-some years old. He's still railroading. And of course, here again, more detailed shots of the tail end of the train, the Fred, which rarely is, nobody ever pays attention to that thing, but it is actually an integral part of the railroad and the operations of railroads. And we're doing a roll by here to make sure everything's all right. That's at Davenport. And that's a train just going by, crossing in the middle of nowhere. Just to show that, I would say that the colors and the difference between the blue and the purples and things like that, it gives a good contrast, I think. And another shot along the CW here. Yeah, so again, I'm a little bit more creative. Some of the snowflakes ended up on the lens that created a certain kind of effect, a heavy snowstorm. We're tied down for a second here and checking some air brakes to make sure we're all right coming down the hill. But again, a different kind of an effect to give the viewer the appreciation for the drama. location. Yeah, it's the same GP30 there coming down the hill, different angle. Another night shot there at Wilbur of our SD45. And we're at, this is actually not on the EWG here. This is out on the Lamphere siding as one train is passing another with Fred leaving his mark as they come to rest at the siding there, waiting for the other train to go by. Another brutally cold day, a night. And downtown Spokane, cityscape. BNSF comes through there with about 60 trains a day. And again, another perspective. It looks like the grass is on fire, but it's just the light from the train causing the illusion. Again, just trying to create a mood here that shows that it's a very unusual atmosphere out there at nighttime, lonely, and things have a way of appearing and being like apparitions out there sometimes. But it's kind of an illusion. But yeah, that's pretty good shot there at Mondovi. And this was done at Telford. That's myself there doing a selfie, and I've got a pretty powerful flashlight. You've probably seen something like this on Instagram, but thought it was pretty neat effect. Yeah, a train passing by at Telford there with the sky, the stars. I love to have stars in my images. Just something about looking at stars and trains.
When you're working, do you prefer working at night or during the day?
Well, actually, I do prefer working at night. It does take a toll. You're sleeping when other people are awake, and it does have, especially with your intimates, makes it difficult for them to have a relationship with you, and that's why a lot of railroaders tend to have, problems with their marriages, and many of them been married a few times over, and a lot of them just single. So this is a bare table shot there that was out in front of my place where I live, and just kind of a streak, just to kind of, again, it's just the way of the photography to make it, kind of an artsy fartsy type thing. That's what a lot of guys call it. But I am into that. I like that kind of thing. This was done remotely. This is going down into what's called Webb Canyon. The locomotives are in heavy dynamics, and so it looks like it's almost on fire. But one of my more favorite shots that I've been able to capture. Yeah, this is this is almost esoteric. You can't really even see the locomotive, but this a very heavy snowstorm. We're stopped at getting oil in Davenport, and just again recording the atmosphere. Just showing how terrible the weather is, but the railroads still run. But there's still that. I still see the art in that, and I still see that you can always tell there's still a locomotive there, and there's a lot going on, but it's not something you usually see, and that's what I'm trying to capture with some of these things, with different views at different times of day. We've just come into Davenport here, big snow drifts. That is the lantern of the conductor walking away. Yeah, we'll have to shovel all that off there.
It's a lot of work.
Yep. Solitary crossing out in the middle of nowhere. And back in Spokane. Again, another one of those shots where it's just kind of different, has a different feel to it, kind of almost transparent. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions there. I mean, like I said, I haven't scripted anything here. I was just looking at trying to expose some of the more interesting night shots.
No, you really capture the inside world of railroading quite beautifully, and it's something so few of us get to see today. It's really strong work, and
Yeah.
a privilege for us to get to see it.
Yeah, and I thanks, and I appreciate that. That's really the essence of this, and that's why I really didn't have much to what should I say, a script, you know, because there's a lot of layman's language and things like that involved in some of that, but it's just, you just have to sit there and look at it for a minute and try to soak in some of that. Yeah, so this one will take a little bit of time with. So I was out following my crew around. I was in the car, and we had this violent storm, hail, rain, and at this moment here, we're at a place called Hanson. I've set up. It's extremely. I must be in the eye of the storm because it's absolutely dead silent. But there's lightning all over the place, and you can see that rain is coming down all over. But and so I did this time exposure here, and just as soon as I got done with the time exposure, it just felt like the whole sky opened up, and I hopped in the car, barely got my camera in the car, and the hail was coming down, and I obviously chased the train to the next town of Elmira, but I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. It was just intense rain and storm and lightning, and this was a resultant shot here at Hanson.
Stunning.
So this is at Lanphier, where a train is passing, or on the other side, obviously. Again, time exposure with the lights in the back, I thought was kind of cool how that turned out.
Yeah, no, I love the lights through the center beams and also lighting up the wheels under the cars along the rails there. It's a nice effect.
Sneaking out from underneath there. So yeah, this was a situation where there actually, unfortunately, was a derailment. The train had stopped, and part of it is on the other side. The other train is also waiting, a place called Sagal. Again, I saw the shadows. You can see there's multiple shadows, and immediately grabbed my cameras and got set up for this kind of an unusual shot with the white covered hoppers and the black shadows. Now we're back down in Satana, and that is one of the new GEs that was delivered down to the railroad. Again, a different little perspective with the tubes coming down from the elevators and the actual foreground there for the locomotive number board. Just a different perspective, a different angle, a different view.
Oh.
Yeah, so again here, this is on the Cimarron Valley. Here we had a situation where we were trying to get up this little hill. As you can see in front of the locomotive, there's a ton of green grass that had grown over the rail and hadn't been treated yet. And from here, where we're at, to those elevators up there, we could barely pull our train up, so we had to back up. We had to tie down for a minute, let the air recharge, and during that time, this violent storm just showed up, and this is a handheld, actually, image.
Wow.
This was the best image that I got out of probably 300 frames. So, yeah. And I had to do it that way because I didn't have a remote trigger for the lightning. So all I did is I just kept shooting until finally, in that split second, I was able to catch a thunderbolt hitting the ground and actually make this capture. So it took quite some time to get this shot. So after we did that, then we actually did our best to get up that hill. It was very difficult. It was wet and we were slipping, so it was quite interesting. By the time we made it to the town, there, the whole storm, everything had gone away. And this is up at height. Again, the moon was setting in the back behind the elevators, the contrails, all these intersecting lines, and the light you know, again, I couldn't help but to get set up. The light up against the locomotive there is my conductor. He's actually checking the water on the locomotive after we tied down there for a minute. And another up close and personal view. Yeah, so again, another insight into railroading. Every once in a while, the EPD, which is the engine protection device, will not stay. The button will not stay in, and the locomotive will just shut down, and the governor will quit. So we improvise, overcome, and adapt. So we pick up pieces of tie or use a fusee to keep the button in, so that we can just keep actually rolling. Because there's really technically nothing wrong with the locomotive. It does have all the fluids and everything in it. It's just that the EPD is gone bad, and so we do what we can to keep things moving. Yeah, this was a few years ago when there was quite some fires in Spokane. Again, it's just one of those images where you see it, you say, that's pretty cool. The train's moving in the background, then you have the shadow of the other locomotive from the yard lights cast against the cars. And of course, the light is amplified through the dust and the not the dust, but the fire particles. This is one of my more favorite shots. The train is actually coming up Deep Creek Hill. It's very early in the morning. I couldn't be more than about 5 o'clock in the morning. It's probably later than that because it's winter time. But locomotive is working at 8 throttle. But it's just a nice frost on the trees and the tunnel that the framing that the trees give you here. This is up in Bonus Ferry. And this was turned out kind of nice because it looks like the locomotive is kind of floating on the rail. Yeah. Again, it's just a soft, kind of a esoteric, surreal kind of image. You know, we still had the cab lights on and the lights in the back. So yeah, it's quite different. This is like a triple meet out by where I live there. They're actually constructing that new bridge there, but one train is waiting for the other one to get out of the way. So the train that we're looking at that's closest to us here is the end of the train waiting to go westbound. The one with the light on is right behind him waiting to go westbound, and there's another westbound that's passing on the other side. And yeah, so that's the kind of traffic level that is very common. I mean, it's every day there in Spokane where I actually have my residence. Yeah, this was the we had a backup move here. I wasn't involved with this move here, but it was interesting because here I have the Big Dipper in the image, and it looks like the train is actually going through the the image. It's actually not. The train is actually backing up. But still, again, the illusion of movement, the Big Dipper and the sky and it's just something a little bit different than what you would normally see. Well, here again, I'm not part of the crew. I'm just with the guys. They're bringing the train around the Rockland curve there. It's a very high ISO shutter setting because it's impossible. This is just barely, I'd say the sun had just gone away and the moon in there. So again, it gives you the appreciation of railroading and what it feels like to be in the train. Yeah, that's the same train as we had before. That's probably a duplicate image there. You can go ahead to the next one there.
Sure.
Yeah, and this one is a one-man odd out. Again, the curve and the straightness of the building in the back, the angles, and the crispness of the image. That's just kind of what this is one of the images where I see a lot of you know, it's hard to explain, but I would say the train takes you through the image, and the building provides the period to to the actual train taking you through there. So
yeah,
and then
it
of course,
anchors the scene.
what's that?
It anchors the scene on the left. Yeah.
Yes, it does. And then with the one man odd out there with the BN and Cascade Green.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the color version of the black and white that I had before there. Yeah, and this is at the Four Lakes facility. The sky is actually that way. It's the light is coming off the airport that's by that area there. So we've just pulled our train in, getting ready to unload it, and then the BNSF train that's on the side here is going to get reloaded and then take off. Again, it's just the clouds and things like that. It just makes it interesting. This I've tried a few times where the train is in the siding and the light is. If I were to do a shot of this straight on, it would be completely blown out. But once the train comes around and blocks it out a little bit, it gives you a little bit of a perspective of one train waiting in the siding, the other one passing, without actually completely blowing out the photo. And this was another night where we had extreme fog. Again, kind of an Art Deco, maybe image of. This is what I would consider to be art. Where you're not really looking at trying to get a rail fan image of something. You're trying to show the curve, the lines and the brute factor of the locomotive, and with the power of the light coming out of it, and it's almost like a spacecraft.
Yeah.
Old code wire that's line that's at GoVan there with the Cassiopeia in the background. Still have a few glass insulators up top. Just one of those iconic images of railroading. We had code line. And a shot of the Milky Way at Tilford Road. No train, but the tracks are there, and it's almost like you're waiting for a train to show up here. But again, I love the stars. And this is one of the train crews coming through the crossing there. He actually has had to stop. The conductor is going to be throwing the switch. So this one I like because of the blue and the red, and you've got the engineer lit up by the crossing signals there. So it was just a momentary time there to get a shot like that. So again, it just shows the workings there, and it gives you an idea of what you can do. If you're in the right place at the right time, you can get some pretty interesting things, but you've got to be patient and you've got to be diligent and always have your camera for sure. So that's the moon rising in the back there. That was an extremely difficult image to get. I had to crank down the f-stop quite a bit, and that's where you get the star effect on the headlight. So there was quite a bit of manipulation to this image in Lightroom, but all in all, it turned out all right. The moon was rising exponentially, so it had to be kind of a quick shot at a very, I'd say, high shutter speed, but it was quite difficult. Like I said, I had to spend a lot of time in Lightroom to get this balanced properly. Otherwise, it would have you wouldn't have not either seen the moon or you would have not seen the train. So it had to be worked. And so there's a lot of heavy lifting that goes in using Lightroom to try to pull out what you would normally see with the naked eye, because of the depth that the camera or the sensor can get is not nearly what the human eye actually ever sees. So a lot of times, folks will think that what you get from the camera is what you actually saw, and that's really not the case. If you think about it and look with your naked eye, the ability for the eye to see is far outweighs what you can get from a sensor and just out of the camera. So a lot of times you have to go back and specifically like this image and rework it so that you do get the balance and that you do get to see what the actual naked eye has seen.
One of our viewers asked, what sort of time exposures are you using for these night shots? How many seconds are you typically leaving the shutter open?
Yeah, so in this particular case here, so we'd be looking at, I don't shoot anything high ISO. I try to stay away from that unless it's something handheld or whatever. But this is on a tripod, so this would be like ISO 100, and I probably, like I said, I crank down the f-stop, probably be about f11, maybe f13. So the exposure is probably going to be right around, I'd say 2-3 minutes. Yep. So, and you can see that Scott, the conductor, held pretty still in there. He knew I was taking an image. I told him, I said, just sit still for a second there, so I can get this.
I wanted to ask too, like what the feelings of the crew members that you're out shooting with, kind of what their opinion of your photography is.
Well, that's very interesting. So let's digress a little bit. So when I was down on the Cimarron Valley, I was asked to go work down there because they were short of crews. And I said, sure, I'll go down there. I'll take a look at it. And besides, they offered me a pretty good deal. And I couldn't resist right away. First day I got down there, I started, taking pictures. And of course, I was immediately accused of being a company spy. So the way I got around that was, as soon as I had some images of the actual crews working, I went down to the local Walmart and printed out a few images and said, okay, here you go. And I started passing them out, and they were really excited about that. And that's kind of what gave me the idea about how I would do this presentation, although it's not, obviously you can tell it's not scripted. So it's pretty much all ad lib. But anyway, one of the particular individuals was almost in tears because they said, I've never seen myself, nobody's ever taken pictures of me working, and my mom is going to be very happy that I can show her now what I'm doing. So, and that was really kind of a revelation, and for me, it was very gratifying to be able to do that for someone. So when I started passing out the pictures, and they all said, oh, well, this is pretty cool, and so they kind of opened up their hearts a little bit and softened up a little bit. But all in all, to answer your question quite directly, I think that they, as long as they know that I'm doing my job and not compromising the operation, everybody I've worked with so far has been very accommodating and very appreciative. And a lot of times I will, since they're all pretty much my friends, I will tag them in the pictures, and they really appreciate that too. So it's been very welcome, even from the management too. This particular image was actually used on the Washington Eastern website.
Well, look, we're getting up about time. Is there anything else you want to show us to kind of wrap up here?
Yeah. So, let's go back to the folders real quick.
Sure.
There might be a couple more little images in there. Let's go. We were on the night photography. So back to, go back there and go back to the EWG. Well, let's go. Let's see what we got there real quick. Maybe a couple more images here, and then we can go, because I think we were running a little bit late getting started too. I think, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this this image here. 1, 2, 3, 4 in there with the sun in the background. Yep. So here again, this is again for photography and the way to get images to do what you want them to do and to see or to show, to reflect what you saw happening. So again, this is, of course, the sun is behind there, and we've got a lot of dust because a car has driven down the dirt road. But, the image when it first came out of the camera was it was bland. There was nothing really there, but I had to lift it out to see what I actually saw there. So again, this is where the heavy lifting through Lightroom comes in, and so that's where the art is in trying to make an image, make you think a little bit and say, wow, look at that. There's the exhaust is amplified, and the engineer is sitting there, and he's coming out from out of the sun, pulling a train. There's dust coming off the train. Those are all little details that you have to look at to really try to bring your photo to, or your image into making it kind of like a work of art, you know. So, and that's kind of the gist of this whole thing here. Not only just to talk about what it is to be a railroader, but it is how to make art out of railroad photography, rather than just having a blue sky all the time, and you know, being able to read the number boards or what kind of locomotive it is. I think with the equipment that we have these days, there's no question that we can all kind of look at, and for what I've seen from all the presenters, it's incredible the amount of photography that these men and even the women out there have been able to accomplish with the equipment that's out there today that we couldn't even think about making 10 or 20 years ago. So it's wonderful, and so that's my aim, is to try to, when I'm looking at making an image that's not about detail or about the railroading part of it, but about about the art of it, is to find a way to bring that image out and pull all of that, everything that it has to offer out, and then let the viewer, you know, behold that and feel that and experience that, what I've seen. So let's go ahead and back out of that, and let's see if there's maybe one more here. I think the one that we use down here. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4 rows down, second from the right. Yep. So this was, again, one of those moments where it was very difficult to even ever think of being able to repeat it. You know, a train is coming up out of the hill. The clouds were actually that color, and I had to drive through a field, almost got stuck, still kind of wet. But again, here it is. If I would have taken this image just out of the camera and posted it here, you would have said, there's nothing really here, because you don't get to see the colors. So again, it is to try to make some art out of what you're making an image of the railroading, not just to take it and say, okay, here's a train coming up a hill, but to put it through a certain kind of process and lift out what you have available, and then show it, and then present it and say, you know, here you go. This is what I saw. This is how it was. And hopefully evoke something with, and of course the story to go with it is very important too. So, but yeah. So Scott, it's up to you if you're good with that. I'm good with it, unless you want to look at a couple more.
Oh, it's all super stuff.
I wish I had more time, and I wish I would have had more time to script something a little bit more sophisticated.
Well, maybe a follow-up's in order someday.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, there's a lot of things in the works, and right now I'm at a museum where, you know, of course, right now you have all the thumbnails up there, so everybody can kind of see the little thumbnails there. But you know, I'm at a museum here, and it's offered me a lot of opportunity to look at some, what I would call here is a Jurassic Park. So you know, there'll be some more stuff there, and I appreciate being able to be a presenter here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I hope I've done at least a little bit to earn that appreciation or honor, and also I'd like to say thanks to all the presenters. There was some fantastic stuff, and they put a lot of time into it. They definitely did that. It's incredible what these people are doing out there, and it's, my hat is off to you, Scott, and your staff for making this available for everybody to see and to participate in. So thank you very much.
Oh, it's our great pleasure, and we can only do it because we have so many talented and generous folks in our midst who are doing great work and willing to share it with us.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Perfect.
Great gratitude for everyone, and again, this is really a superb kind of look behind the curtain to see more of the insides of railroading, and to see it from the perspective of someone who's in the industry and works in the business, but also has an incredible eye for the art of it. And that's a privilege on two fronts. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, and thank you.
Any questions for anybody? We didn't have much time for questions earlier. I guess that's a testament to all the great material we have to share. Whether it's a presentation or a conference or an issue of the magazine or anything else, it's always the biggest challenge is what to leave out, because we really are blessed with a wealth of great material and great people willing to share their work, and that's what makes the center work. It's what created all of the historic photographs that we have in our archives, and it's what gives us so much wonderful contemporary material to share today. And we're also gratified that so many people want to watch it, and I'm delighted to see that we have the majority of our audience still on after 8 hours on what's in Madison at least has been an absolutely beautiful late summer Saturday here. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for our presenters for sharing such incredible work with us. If anyone does have questions, we're happy to take those. We will be doing our next online presentation on the evening of Tuesday, October 6th. That'll be our virtual Oktoberfest featuring Milwaukee Road's Beer Line by John Kelly, photographs from our Wallace Abbey collection and some other archives. Really nice look into the blue-collar railroading and the relationship between the railroads and the brewing industry there in Milwaukee. And we'll have at least 2 more presentations this year in November and December, possibly more, and certainly more into the year ahead. So stay tuned for that and more on our website. Again, happy to take questions or comments, and great thanks for everyone for tuning in, and for all of our presenters for sharing their great work, for our board members and the introductions, and all of our staff members working so hard behind the scenes to make this all happen. So great gratitude to all.
Absolutely. Thank you.